Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pews and Brews, where we have a couple brews and do a gun review. I'm Not So Tactical Tim, and today we're going to be looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly of Bear Creek Arsenal's dedicated 22 long rifle upper. It's a 16-inch barrel, 1 in 16 twist, so it does have the specific twist for the 22. The main reason I decided to try this out is because I was going to get another one of the CMMG kits, because if you saw the review I did on that a little while back, I mean, it works fantastic. But I saw this advertised and I thought, you know what, for the 60 or 70 bucks more than the CMMG kit to have a full upper, I'd give it a try. The one thing that really put me over the edge was it uses the CMMG magazines, and it comes with another one. They go right in the standard lower, just like the CMMG kit does. So I thought, well, for that little price difference, and I wanted another one anyway, I'd get this and try it out. The other kind of neat feature is it is side charging. I decided to go with the side charging. Bear Creek offers almost all the calibers they have in the side charging as well as the rear charging feature. So that was another thing that I thought was kind of neat and wanted to try out. So we're going to take a quick look at this, do a rundown on it, then we'll get it out to the range, put some rounds through it, see how it does. Stick around. Okay, we're going to take a quick look at this side charging upper. Start up here at the front. There's a little spiral flash hider on there. That's kind of nice. Your handguard, it's a nice handguard. I prefer mine to be a little bit shorter, but not really a big deal. It's still a nice M-lock handguard that's on there. And it is held in with 8 Allen head screws that screw into the barrel nut. So unlike some of those that just kind of use a pinch fit with a couple screws in the bottom, this definitely isn't going anywhere being threaded into the barrel nut like that. The upper receiver, I believe, I got to check, I can't remember specifically if it said that it was a billet upper receiver, but just by the way it's machined and everything, I'd be willing to say that it is a billet upper receiver. Here's your side charge handle. The only downfall to this is if you need to get the bolt out completely for whatever reason to do some cleaning or whatever the case may be, you do need to have an Allen wrench on hand in order to take this screw out. So that's the one detractor of this. Now, this just being a little range plinker, it's not really a big deal. So, you know, the nice thing about having a side over a rear charging handle is if you decide to mount a scope on something like this, you don't have to worry about having it too far forward for you. You can bring it back and not have to, you know, either have an extended rear charging handle or kind of get underneath on the side to get it out from underneath the scope. On the back, which we'll pop this open real quick, there is a thumb screw on the back here. And then obviously it's threaded in there where your charging handle would normally come out. The main reason for this is to prevent any of the gases or anything from blowing back through where your normal charging handle would come out. So it's a good thing they thought about that. I mean, obviously you should be wearing safety glasses anyway when you're at the range, but just the position that that's in, obviously, if anything comes back out through that, it's going to be right into your face. So that'll prevent anything from coming out of that hole from where your charging handle would normally be. The bolt, it does kind of retain the bolt a little bit. That's as far as the bolt would ever be able to come out with that installed. But the bolt is maintained flush against the receiver by the back of your lower receiver. If you can see in here, there is no buffer or spring. It's strictly the buffer tube with a stock on it. I do still have the retaining pin and stuff installed in this one because if I switch this out to another gun that would need a buffer in it, then you can just pop the buffer and spring right in, you're ready to go. So that's the main features of the Bear Creek Arsenal 22 upper. So now let's get it out to the range, run some rounds through it, and see how it does. Not overly encouraging, but it is the first shots put through it. All right, not overly encouraging. I did have 2 jams during that first magazine I put through. Like I said, those were the very first shots, so let's load up a couple more mags. Maybe we just need to run it in a little bit. As you notice, I don't have any kind of sight on this, but we'll see if we can at least ring a couple gongs, see if I can get it zeroed in enough to do that. Not a good sign. Okay, now what just happened there, I believe, is the stovepipe shell actually fired the shell that was in the chamber. So when that cocked sideways and the rim of that stovepiped one hit the actual rim of the unfired case, I'm pretty sure that's what just happened there, is that one actually, the stovepipe shell fired the shell that was in the gun, if you heard that big pop. Yeah, so we're definitely gonna have to take this home and really disassemble the bolt, give everything a good cleaning, because it's just not ejecting with enough force to really clear that other shell. Yeah, so far it looks like Jam Master 5000. That's not good. Okay, so what I did to try to remedy this was to get a lightweight hammer and trigger spring set. I'm thinking that maybe the 22s didn't have enough oomph to cycle that heavy, hammer and trigger spring on the stock AR-15 one. So I got a lightweight one. We're going to see if that helps. I did take a couple shots with some Norma Tac 22s that had a couple failure to feeds. So we'll try it with some of these Thunderbolts since they're a little more high velocity. See if it runs right. Thunder dud already. Well, we had one thunder dud, but they are ejecting the way they should. So I think probably lightening that up is helping that, the whole bolt system come back a little quicker and is knocking those shells out of there. That's the problem we were having before when I looked at that video close up, was that a lot of those shells weren't really ejecting very well. And I think with having that lighter weight hammer spring in there, now I haven't shot this very much today. I put some rounds through it just to play around with this scope, which is a piece of junk. I can't get it sighted in. It's a UTG red dot. The problem we were having before with it not kicking out real hard, I think the lightweight spring remedied, but after not a whole lot of rounds through this, I can already feel it's getting sort of gritty. The way this system runs, there's a stainless pin up here with a spring on it, and it feels like that's getting kind of dirty and gritty already. So I don't know. I don't want to say I'm regretting buying it just yet. I want to try some other stuff, but really not looking good. Here's the upper completely disassembled. I usually do this before I even take anything out and shoot it, just to make sure there's no, burrs anywhere around the feed ramps or, any kind of bits of material from machining or anything like that that might have caused an issue. I didn't do that with this initially on the first set of shots I was showing, but I did do it on the second range day that I showed, which we still were having problems. So brought it home, took it apart again, and just wanted to look to see if there was any kind of rub marks, any kind of wear that was noticeable inside the receiver here where the bolt goes, that something might have been causing some excess drag on the bolt. And I don't see any wear marks in there at all. Now, we weren't really having feeding issues, but I checked the feed ramp. All of that seems good. Where I think our problem is located is with the bolt design. If you see this stainless rod here, this part is what, the rod's kind of what keeps the bolt centered in the action, and it rides back with that rod going through this, small metal piece on the top. I think what's happening is when this comes back, if you see, that rod is exposed to the entire chamber. So with the sooty nature of 22 ammunition, every time that fires and cycles back, some of that soot is building up on this rod. And I think that's what's causing the drag on this system. And because that rod's just going through a real small hole right there, I think that was causing enough drag to make us have feed and ejection issues. What I did to try to remedy this, we're going to try it out and see if it works, is in order to get this rod out, you just undo that Allen screw right there. There's a flat with a notch back here that holds the rod in. You can remove this rear piece, take your spring off, and then pull the rod out the front. I took some lapping compound, put it on the rod, and then ran it back and forth like that with a lapping compound on it a bunch of times, just to try to kind of smooth everything up with this, really mate these two pieces together and create just a little more clearance in there, because I noticed that the fit to this was pretty tight. So I think by doing that, it'll handle the soot buildup from the 22s a little bit better. And I'm hoping, if we keep this fairly dry, because if you oil something like this up, it's even going to attract more soot. So if we keep this fairly dry, and with having lapped that in and really smoothed that up, I'm hoping that solves most of our issues. I don't know that any of the issues are going to ever be completely solved just because of this design. With getting all the soot from the blowback on this, I think after, a number of rounds, enough is going to build up on this that it's going to cause some excess drag and cause cycling issues. But my thought was, just by creating a smoother area and a little more clearance in there, that should help solve the issue, at least that you can get out and get through a range day and put a couple hundred rounds through it without having to take it apart and clean it. So hopefully that works. We'll try it and see. Between that and the lightweight spring, I'm hoping that resolves the issue. you probably shouldn't have to go through all this with a brand new firearm in order to get it to function reliably, but we're going to give it a shot before I contact Bear Creek and have to either return it to them to see what they can do or find out if they have any other kind of solutions if they've had this problem with these before. It's possible that I just got one where the fit in here just happened to be exceptionally tight, so hopefully by loosening that fit up a little bit, it'll give us that little bit of extra clearance in there and solve some of those problems. This is a video looking down through the mag well at the one other thing that I thought could have been causing an issue with this, and that's the ejector. If you see this long silver piece here, now this is fully assembled back in the gun the way it should be. If I pull the bolt back, that's that stainless rod down there that has the spring on it that I said it, is going to be exposed to the gases and the soot every time this cycles. This piece up here is the ejector. If you look kind of close up front, there's two roll pins that hold it into the barrel, and they hold it really tight. Those roll pins are really in there. They took some force to get them out. So because this ejector doesn't have any kind of wiggle room at all, if you see, that slides all the way down the channel of the bolt. So what I did was I took some oiled 600 grit sandpaper, did both the faces, the back and the front side, and then I went all the way down this back edge, around the back here, and up this short edge to the corner, and really smoothed it up. And also, I'm sure it took a hair of material away just to give it a little bit more clearance, so that there again, nothing could be rubbing. And that was the last thing I could think of to try out to eliminate any kind of drag on the bolt system that's affecting how well it cycles. So between doing that, lapping in that stainless rod down there that has your recoil spring on it, and putting the light hammer spring on the gun, that's pretty much all I can think of to help this cycle reliably. So we'll take it out, put a couple rounds through it, and see if it helps. So I did reach out to Bear Creek, and I sent them an email just asking if they had any suggestions or anything like that. I wasn't looking to return it. I just wanted to see if they had any suggestions on, anything to do to maybe help this function a little more reliably. And I did get a response in a couple days. I'm going to put up here real quick an exact copy of their response about the break-in procedure specific to this 22 long rifle upper. So here's that real quick. All right, here we are to, of course, have a brew and wrap up this review. As you saw from that email that I got, they do have a break-in procedure specific to this 22 long rifle. It doesn't go for their centerfire rifles. It's just for this 22. It's lube the bolt carrier group up really well, fire 100 rounds, clean it, give it a lot of lube again, fire another 100 rounds, clean it, and then lube it as normal. My hope is that in conjunction with what I did, which should also actually kind of mimic their break-in procedure, is going to have this running right. Now, I'm going to do something that I almost never do, and that is to wrap this up without taking this out and showing it function reliably or doing any range testing with it. The reason for that is we've had a lot of snow and ice recently up here in the Northeast, and the road that I go back to get to the range, it's in the woods, it's long, it's hilly, and it's just gravel, so they can't plow it. And when I woke up this morning, it was 4 degrees with a -9 wind chill. So rather than take this out, I have a 4-wheel drive, but risk going back that hilly lane, and with it being so cold, it just doesn't make sense to go out and try to run this in 4 degrees you know, that cold's going to tighten everything up even more. So rather than even go out, I'm just going to wrap it up. I'll go over some of the stuff that I do like about it. Like I said earlier, I checked and I couldn't really find specific information on whether this upper receiver here is billet. Just the way it's made, the way it's machined, the kind of blocky nature of it is typical in what I've seen in billet uppers. So, you know, I am going to go out on a limb, like I said before, and say this probably is a billet upper. You know, it's got this nice M-lock handguard on it that is really fastened in there with these 8 Allen head screws into the barrel nut. It is a 1 in 16 specific to the 22 1 in 16 twist barrel. So really, it's not a it's really not a bad upper. I'm hoping I can get it to run good. The one thing that it does not have, which may or may not be a big issue to some people, it's just a range plinker, is it doesn't have a last round hold open. The bolt will stay back on an empty magazine, but it comes forward far enough that you can actually fire the trigger. So even with the magazine out and using the magazine catch, that also doesn't hold the bolt back. It holds it back, you know, maybe a half an inch or something. So there is no last round hold open on this. There again, for me, not a big deal since it's just a range plinker. If it's something that you absolutely have to have, then obviously this isn't the upper for you. But other than that, like I said, it's a nice looking piece, built really solid, and I'm really hoping I can get it to run right. So as soon as I can get out to the range and do some more testing with it, I'll update this video. But for now, we're just gonna have to sit here in the cold and have a brew, wait for the weather to warm up. So until next time, if you're in one of those warmer climates, do something useful with yourself and get out there and get pewing. We'll see you.